ended up doing a story on her being in Hawaii with Papoose, right? And Papoose's side chick allegedly popped up and said, I'm in Hawaii staying pretty too. Now, Remy Ma has already spilled the wine on Claressa not being the only one.
You ever witness a moment so messy, so shocking, so perfectly timed that it feels like the internet itself just lost control? Because that's exactly what happened the second Tasha K whispered one word: receipts, not proof. Not rumors, not speculation, receipts. And once that word hit the timeline, everything exploded. Phones started buzzing, lives went viral, screenshots started flying. And suddenly two names that were never supposed to be connected were trending together in pure chaos: Claressa Shields, Papoose. And no, this wasn't about boxing, this wasn't about music. This was about something far more dangerous: reputation. Because when Tasha K says she has receipts, the internet doesn't ask if, it asks how bad is it? And what followed didn't just surprise fans, it stunned them. Because nobody saw Claressa Shields, the undefeated champion, the symbol of discipline, power, and focus, being pulled into messy internet drama like this. And nobody expected Papoose, known for loyalty, respect, and staying out of chaos, to be standing anywhere near the blast zone. And yet here they were, side by side in trending topics, surrounded by rumors, speculation, and alleged messages that were never meant to go public. And the scariest part, neither of them spoke at first, which made the silence louder than any accusation. Because silence in internet culture is gasoline. And Tasha K, she didn't come gentle, she didn't tease softly. She came with that slow, dangerous tone that says, I know something you don't want me to say. And when she said the words, I've been sitting on this, the internet froze. Because sitting on information doesn't mean gossip. It means someone was waiting for the right moment. And that right moment was now. And suddenly people were asking questions they never imagined asking. Why Claressa? Why Papoose? What connection could possibly exist between a champion boxer and a veteran rapper? And why would Tasha K be in the middle of it? Because this wasn't random. This wasn't accidental. This was calculated chaos. The kind that doesn't just embarrass people, it rearranges narratives. And what makes this story even more terrifying is that it doesn't feel like a simple rumor. It feels like someone pulled a thread and the whole fabric started tearing. Because once alleged receipts start circulating, the damage is already done. Even if they're fake, even if they're misunderstood, even if they're manipulated, perception becomes reality, and reality is unforgiving. And just when people thought this was another fleeting internet moment, Tasha K made one statement that made fans sit up straight. This isn't about clout, this is about patterns. Patterns, that word changes everything, because patterns mean history, behavior, repetition. And now the question isn't, did something happen? It's how long has it been happening? And once that question enters the room, there is no going back, so buckle up. Because once you hear what insiders are claiming, once you see how these alleged receipts surfaced, once you understand how all three names ended up in the same digital storm, you're going to realize something chilling. This drama didn't just explode, it was waiting too. To understand why this situation shook the internet the way it did, you have to understand how impossible it once seemed that Claressa Shields, Papoose, and Tasha K would ever be in the same headline. Because these are three worlds that were never meant to collide, three reputations built on completely different foundations, and yet here they are, colliding in the loudest way possible. Let's start with Claressa Shields, not just a boxer. A phenomenon, a woman who didn't just win titles, she rewrote expectations. Young, focused, relentless, Claressa wasn't built in chaos. She was built in discipline. Her brand has always been control, precision, respect. She didn't play internet games. She didn't flirt with controversy. She stayed in her lane and dominated it, which is why seeing her name trending next to drama feels wrong, out of character, uncomfortable. Because Claressa's entire image was built on being untouchable by nonsense. And now suddenly she's in the middle of it. Then there's Papoose, a man who built his name not just on lyrics, but on loyalty, stability, marriage, respect. In a culture where messy relationships dominate headlines, Papoose stood out by staying grounded. He wasn't trending for scandals. He wasn't chasing viral moments. He was known as the faithful husband, the disciplined artist. The man who moved quietly, which made his appearance in this storm even more shocking. Because when men like Papoose are pulled into drama, it feels like something serious must have happened. Now let's talk about Tasha K, the wild card. The spark, the woman whose platform was built on doing what nobody else dares, saying things publicly that people only whisper privately. She thrives in uncomfortable truths, in exposing what others hide, in forcing conversations people don't want to have. And when Tasha K says she has receipts, people don't laugh, they brace, because her reputation isn't built on being soft, it's built on shaking rooms. So how did these three paths intersect? According to fictional insiders, the connection didn't start publicly. It started quietly, through overlapping circles, industry events, private gatherings, mutual associates. Because even when public figures live in different worlds, their circles often overlap behind closed doors. And that's where stories are born, not on Instagram, not on Twitter, in rooms without cameras. Where conversations happen freely and secrets feel safe. For a long time, everything remained separate. Claressa stayed in sports, Papoose stayed in music, Tasha stayed in commentary until something changed. Insiders claim the tension began when whispers started circulating about unusual interactions. Not public, not obvious, but subtle, lingering conversations, unexpected meetings, private messages that didn't match public narratives. And when Tasha K allegedly got wind of those whispers, she didn't run to the internet immediately. She watched, waited, because exposing something before it ripens is how you lose control of the story. Now here's the part people don't want to hear. The drama wasn't born from hatred. It was born from curiosity, from inconsistencies, from patterns that didn't match the public image. Because when someone's behavior behind closed doors doesn't align with their public persona, that's when people start paying attention. And attention is dangerous. Now let's rewind even further. Claressa Shields has always been under pressure. Not just to win, but to represent. As a woman in a male-dominated sport, as a Black woman in a global spotlight, as a symbol of discipline and success, which means she's been living under a microscope. And when you live under a microscope, every movement feels heavier. Every interaction becomes subject to interpretation. Papoose, on the other hand, carried a different weight, the weight of being seen as the good guy, the loyal one. The steady one, the exception, which is beautiful but also suffocating. Because when people expect perfection from you, there's no room for mistakes, no room for complexity, no room for anything human. And Tasha K. She doesn't believe in untouchable images. She believes that everyone has layers, and that no public persona is as clean as it appears, which makes her dangerous to anyone with something to hide. And that's why when she started hinting at having receipts, it felt like a threat, not just to Claressa or Papoose, but to the illusion of perfection itself. And that illusion is fragile, because when one crack appears, everything becomes visible. Now here's where the story becomes truly unsettling. According to fictional sources, Tasha didn't receive the alleged information from one person. She received it from multiple directions, different stories, different timelines, different angles, but all pointing toward the same uncomfortable narrative, that something wasn't being told honestly. And when multiple versions of a story start matching, that's when speculation turns into suspicion. And suspicion is deadly in the public eye. But Tasha didn't rush, she didn't drop names immediately. She started speaking in codes, subtle references, vague captions, side comments that only insiders understood, and while most people brushed it off, those who knew knew. Then came the moment that changed everything, when Tasha finally said the word receipts, because receipts don't mean opinions. They mean evidence, documentation, something physical or digital that supports a claim. And once that word entered the conversation, the narrative shifted instantly. Because now the story wasn't about whether something happened. It was about what was going to be shown, and who would be exposed, and the most chilling part. Neither Claressa nor Papoose addressed it immediately. No denials, no explanations, no PR statements, just silence, which made fans nervous. Because silence in the face of rumors is either strategic or forced. And both are terrifying. Now fans started connecting dots. Old interviews, old appearances, moments that once meant nothing suddenly felt loaded. People were asking, why were they in the same place that night? Why did he comment that? Why did she respond like that? And once people start searching for meaning, they always find something, even if it wasn't there before. And that's how chaos builds, not from one lie, but from 1,000 questions. And now this drama has moved beyond gossip. It has become a psychological war between public image, private behavior, and digital exposure. And once those three collide, nobody walks away untouched. Because the truth doesn't just hurt when it's revealed, it destroys when it's anticipated. And right now, the world is waiting to see what Tasha will reveal, how Claressa will respond, whether Papoose will break his silence, because once that happens, there is no undo button. The moment Tasha K finally said she was ready to show something, the internet didn't just lean in, it held its breath. Because up until that point, everything had lived in the world of whispers and speculation. But once she hinted at visuals, once she suggested there were screenshots, messages, and timelines, the story stopped being about maybe. It became about what. And when Tasha went live that night, the tone was different. No jokes, no sarcasm, no playful shade. She was calm, and that calmness, that was terrifying. Because when chaos is delivered calmly, it feels deliberate. She opened the stream by saying, "I'm not here to destroy nobody. I'm here to clarify narratives." That sentence alone made people uneasy, because clarifying narratives is usually code for someone's been lying. Then she said something that changed the direction of the entire story. This isn't about one message or one moment, it's about a pattern. And just like that, the room shifted, because patterns mean repetition, patterns mean consistency, patterns mean behavior. Now here's where the conflict exploded. Tasha didn't show full names, she didn't flash faces, she didn't drop raw data. Instead, she presented fragments, blurred screenshots, cropped timelines, redacted messages. And while nothing directly named Claressa or Papoose, the context made it impossible to ignore who she was talking about. Messages allegedly showing unexpected late-night conversations, supportive tones that crossed professional boundaries, familiarity that didn't match public distance. Now listen carefully, none of this was framed as illegal. None of it was framed as criminal. None of it was framed as violent or abusive. It was framed as contradictory to public images. And that's the most dangerous kind of exposure, because it doesn't accuse someone of being evil, it accuses them of being different than who they claim to be. And in the public eye, that can be worse. Then came the first twist. Tasha didn't claim the alleged interactions were romantic. She said, "Y'all jumping to conclusions, that's not what I said." And that alone flipped the narrative, because suddenly the drama wasn't about an affair, it was about why these communications existed at all, why they were hidden, why they contradicted what fans believed. And that's when people started realizing this wasn't about infidelity, this was about image management. And image management is sacred in celebrity culture, because once your image cracks, everything built on it shakes. Now the internet started fighting with itself. Some said, "This is nothing, this is normal, y'all reaching." Others said, if it was nothing, it wouldn't be hidden. And that's when the conflict turned psychological, because the story wasn't about what was shown, it was about what was implied. Then came the second twist. Tasha revealed she didn't receive the information from one source. She received it from multiple, different people, different times, different perspectives, but all pointing toward the same theme. There's more behind the scenes than the public knows. And when multiple sources echo the same narrative, people stop calling it coincidence. Now Claressa and Papoose still hadn't responded, which made things worse. Because in internet culture, silence doesn't mean innocence. It means tension. It means someone is calculating their next move. And when people start calculating instead of reacting, you know this is serious. Then the situation escalated further. Other bloggers started chiming in, not confirming Tasha's story, but saying things like, "I've heard similar whispers. This isn't new to insiders. People just never talked." And that's when the story became self-sustaining. Because now, even without new information, the narrative had momentum, and momentum in digital drama is unstoppable. Then came the third twist. A so-called associate went on a small podcast and said, "Y'all focusing on the wrong thing. It's not about what they did, it's about why it was hidden." That line alone reframed the entire conversation, because now the issue wasn't behavior, it was transparency. And transparency is the currency of modern celebrity. People don't expect perfection anymore, they expect honesty. And when honesty feels compromised, trust collapses. Now fans weren't just arguing, they were choosing sides. Team mind your business, team tell the truth, team receipts or shut up, team everyone has a right to privacy. And once sides form, drama becomes war, and wars don't end quietly. But here's the most chilling part, Tasha never showed everything. She kept saying, "I'm not even showing y'all the worst part." And that line is a ticking bomb, because it suggests there is more, there is worse, and it hasn't been revealed yet, which means this story isn't peaking, it's building. And the first major conflict wasn't between Claressa and Papoose, it was between public perception versus private reality, and that is a fight nobody ever truly wins. Because once people believe there's more to a story, they don't stop searching until something breaks, and something always breaks. Once Tasha K dropped those alleged fragments, the internet didn't calm down, it went feral. Because fragments are more dangerous than full stories. They invite imagination, and imagination is where chaos thrives. Suddenly, every old clip, every interview, every public appearance involving Claressa Shields and Papoose started being replayed like courtroom evidence. People were zooming in on body language, slowing down reactions, freezing frames like they were solving a crime scene. And that's when something strange started happening. Moments that once looked normal now looked suspicious. A smile became a signal, a pause became a secret, a glance became a message. And once the public reaches that level of hyperanalysis, the story takes on a life of its own. But then came the escalation nobody expected. Tasha didn't drop more screenshots, she dropped context. She said, "Y'all are focused on messages, but you're ignoring timing." Timing, that single word sent shockwaves through the narrative, because timing changes everything. She started laying out a timeline, events, appearances, Moments when these alleged communications coincided with public situations that made everything look uncomfortable, not scandalous, uncomfortable. And discomfort is more powerful than accusation, because discomfort makes people uneasy without giving them something concrete to fight. Now here's where things turned shocking. Tasha claimed that some of the alleged messages were sent during moments when public narratives painted very different pictures. Moments when both individuals were presenting stability, focus, and separation from drama, while behind the scenes, something else was unfolding quietly. And that contrast is what shook people the most, because if true, it wouldn't mean wrongdoing, it would mean storytelling, carefully crafted images that didn't fully match reality. And in the world of public figures, image is everything. Then the shocking reveal dropped. Tasha revealed that she didn't receive the alleged information from gossipers, but from people who once felt emotionally conflicted about staying silent. Not angry, not bitter, just uncomfortable. And that detail changed the tone completely, because when information comes from someone conflicted, it feels heavier, more human, more complicated. Now suddenly this wasn't just tea. It was about who felt uncomfortable enough to talk, why they waited, and what silence cost them emotionally. And that's when the narrative shifted again. People stopped saying, "This is drama," and started saying, "This is messy because humans are messy," which made the story even more dangerous because it stopped being about sides and became about understanding. Now fans were no longer just reacting. They were emotionally processing. Some said, "Even if true, that doesn't make anyone evil." Others said, "Then why hide it?" And there it was, the core question. Why hide something that isn't wrong? And that question haunted the entire story. Because hiding implies fear. Fear implies consequences. Consequences imply stakes. And stakes are what turn whispers into storms. Then came the next twist. A fictional industry watcher posted, "This feels less like scandal and more like reputation chess." And that line changed everything. Because reputation chess means moves are calculated, silence is strategic, reactions are timed. And suddenly, Claressa and Papoose's silence wasn't just absence, it was positioning. And positioning is the quiet language of power. Then something chilling happened. Tasha posted a cryptic message. "Some people aren't mad about what I said. They're mad I said it first." And that sentence made people gasp, because it implied someone else was preparing to talk, someone else was sitting on something, someone else was about to change the narrative, and Tasha got ahead of it. If true, then this entire drama wasn't spontaneous, it was preemptive. And that's when the story crossed into truly dangerous territory, because when multiple people are racing to control the narrative, truth becomes a weapon. Not a solution. Now imagine how that feels for the people involved. No longer reacting emotionally, but strategically. No longer speaking from pain, but from survival. And when survival becomes the motivation, everything changes. Then came the moment that made the internet freeze. A so-called associate posted, "Y'all don't even know the half. This ain't about what happened. It's about what almost came out." And that sentence lit everything on fire again. Because now the story wasn't about revealed information, it was about suppressed information. And suppressed information is the most terrifying kind, because you never know what it is, only that it exists. And when people believe something is being suppressed, they don't stop searching until something breaks, and something always breaks. Now the story is no longer in Tasha's hands, it's in the public's, and the public doesn't seek balance. It seeks spectacle, and that's where this story becomes unstoppable. Because now, Claressa's discipline is under a microscope, Papoose's loyalty is under a spotlight, and Tasha's credibility is under a magnifying glass, 3 reputations. One storm, no clear escape, and the scariest part, nobody has actually denied anything directly. No full statements, no clarifications, no shutdowns, which means the narrative is growing without resistance. And when a story grows without resistance, it becomes reality to the audience, whether it's true or not. And that's what makes this phase so dangerous, because now the drama isn't about facts anymore, it's about belief. And belief is far more powerful than proof. Once Tasha K even hinted at having receipts, something terrifying happened. The internet didn't wait for proof, it reacted first. And when the internet reacts before facts arrive, facts become optional. Suddenly, timelines weren't just talking. They were choosing sides, not based on evidence, based on emotion. Some people said, "Tasha always stirs mess." Others said, "She wouldn't say it if she didn't know something." And just like that, this stopped being about Claressa or Papoose. It became about trust versus reputation. Media outlets rushed to cover it, not because anything had been confirmed, but because the conversation itself was viral. Headlines didn't say, "Confirmed scandal." They said, "Internet erupts over claims, fans debate Tasha K's latest hints, social media divided again," and that's how modern drama works. You don't need facts to trend. You just need curiosity. Then sports fans entered the conversation, not angry, protective. They said, why is boxing even involved in this? Let athletes breathe. Why is everything internet gossip now? Music fans joined too. Saying, why is Papoose even in this? He stays out of mess. This is clout chasing. And suddenly, the conversation wasn't about people anymore. It was about how the internet treats people, and that's where this story became bigger. Because now the debate was, do public figures deserve peace? Or does fame mean permanent exposure? Some argued, if you're famous, people will talk. Others said, but that doesn't make it right. And that is where this story cut deep. Because everyone watching realized something uncomfortable. At any moment, a rumor could become their reality. All it takes is a hint, a screenshot, a suggestion, a trending topic, and suddenly, your name is no longer yours. It belongs to the internet, and that is terrifying. Media personalities weighed in. Some criticized Tasha K for teasing information without clarity. Others criticized the public for demanding drama over truth. One journalist tweeted, "We've created a culture where rumor gets more attention than reality." That line alone went viral because it hit something people didn't want to admit. We love chaos more than clarity. Then sponsors and brands reacted quietly. Not pulling deals, not making statements, just stepping back from conversations involving controversy, which is exactly what brands do when things feel unstable, and instability is dangerous for everyone involved. Then came the real turning point. People started questioning the concept of receipts itself, because screenshots don't equal truth, timelines don't equal intent, and context changes everything. Suddenly, creators were making videos like, why we need to stop believing everything online, how receipts culture is destroying reputations, why silence isn't guilt, and now, this wasn't drama anymore. It was a social debate, and debates last longer than scandals, because scandals fade, but cultural questions don't. And that's when the story reached a dangerous maturity, not because something terrible happened, but because people realized. It could have, and next time it might, and that fear, that's what keeps people watching. Just when everyone thought this storm would slowly fade away, something happened that completely flipped the narrative, not because new receipts dropped. Not because someone confessed, but because nothing happened. No confirmations, no denials, no exposed truths, no dramatic reveals. And that silence became the most powerful twist of the entire story. Because suddenly people realized something horrifying. The internet had nearly destroyed multiple reputations without a single confirmed fact. Think about that. No charges, no proof, no statements, no wrongdoing, just speculation, hints, and a word, receipts. And that was enough to ignite chaos. That realization hit people hard. Creators began deleting their reaction videos. Some quietly changed their titles. Others stopped covering it altogether. Not because they were told to, but because they felt something uncomfortable. They went too far, and that's when the real story emerged. This wasn't about Claressa. This wasn't about Papoose. This wasn't even about Tasha K anymore. It was about us, about how fast we judge, how fast we assume, how fast we spread, and how slow we are to admit when we might be wrong. One viral post summed it up perfectly. We were ready to ruin people and nothing even happened. That line alone shook the internet because it exposed the scariest truth of modern culture. Drama doesn't need reality anymore. It just needs momentum. And momentum nearly became destruction. And here's the most terrifying part: nobody apologized. Not because they were evil, but because in internet culture, there is no system for collective accountability. The story just moved on, and that's when people realized the real danger wasn't the rumor, it was how easily we believed it. And that's where this story ends in the most chilling way possible, not with answers, but with a question. If this much damage can happen without proof, what happens when the next story actually has it? Because next time, there may not be silence, there may not be restraint, and next time, the fallout could be real. Now let's talk. Not about celebrities, about us, because what just unfolded isn't just internet drama, it's a mirror. A reflection of how quickly we believe, share, judge, destroy before we understand. So I want to ask you, do you think receipts culture is exposing truth or destroying lives before truth even arrives? Do you think public figures deserve privacy, or does fame automatically mean public trial? And here's the hardest question. If this story had gone just a little further, if someone had really gotten hurt, would we have felt responsible? Or would we have just scrolled past? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Not jokes, not memes, real opinions. Because this isn't just about drama, it's about what kind of internet we're becoming. And if you want content that doesn't just repeat headlines, but breaks down what's really happening behind them, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because the next story might not stop before it goes too far. And when it happens, we'll be right here. Fire.